Hey everyone, my name's Scott. I'm going to be taking you through a micro teaching guide on mastering lap pool etiquette. Now, the discussion today is something that affects every swimmer, whether you're a beginner or a professional. Lap lane etiquette in swimming can really make or break your swimming experience. So, have you ever been in a situation where maybe someone didn't follow the lap swimming rules at the pool? Perhaps they were chatting on the wall with their friend for too long, blocking how you're going to turn on the wall, swimming too slowly throughout the lap. They're in the fast lane, maybe crossing over the black line, not swimming in the right direction, walking in a swimming lap pool, and how did this make you feel? Well, for me, it makes me feel pretty frustrated, and I'm sure it would others. You know, we all want to have an enjoyable experience. And well, we're all not alone and experience this sort of frustration. So, lane swimming etiquette consists of a number of rules, but these rules are actually unwritten rules that club and most experienced swimmers can follow around the world. And most of these people know about it, but the rules can often be a mystery to other swimmers, like beginners or people that are just entering the pool environment. So, lap lane etiquette isn't just about adhering to the rules, but it's about respecting each other and one another, ensuring that everybody has a safe and enjoyable time in the water. So, by the end of this session, you'll be able to understand some key rules of lap pool etiquette and why they are essential and how to apply them in obviously real life situations. So, let's dive in. So I want to begin with the basics of lane swimming etiquette. Now, these rules are designed to ensure that everyone using the lane can swim safely and effectively, no matter what their speed or experience levels. So the first bit that helps with this is rule number one, lane direction. Now, normally lane directions are signs, so always check for a sign before entering the pool. But some pools have specific rules around which direction to swim in a lap, so either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Now, if you're uncertain about, which side to swim on, you can always feel free to ask a lifeguard or another swimmer for guidance. But if they don't have, signs, a general rule of thumb is to consider which side of the road cars drive on in that country. So, for example, the UK, cars typically drive on the left side. So, for the UK swimmers, we typically swim on the left side. Now, if you're in the US, cars typically drive on the opposite side, so the right side. So normally swimmers in the US also swim on the right side. So great job learning our first rule of swimming lane etiquette. Great job, and that is all concluded. So now we'll move on to rule 2 and 3. So 2 and 3. Now, rule number 2 is what we'll start with: empty lane versus an occupied lane. So look, there's always either empty or occupied lanes, but always choose the empty lane if one is available. This obviously helps prevent overcrowding. It allows for everyone to swim more comfortably. However, if you do have to enter an occupied lane, you must follow rule number 3, which is never enter an occupied lane without signaling. Now, what I mean by signaling is before joining the lane, notify the swimmer already in that lane that you are about to join. So, signaling could be dangling your legs in the water or standing at the end of the lane when they make a turn. Just make sure they know you're there, you know they're there. So there's that communication. If you can speak with them, it is best to speak with them and just communicate effectively that you're going to be entering the lane. So this brings us to lane etiquette basic rule number 4 and 5. So splitting the lane. This is slightly different from lane direction, but if there is only one other person in the lane, you can split the lane with each swimmer taking half. Because there's only two of you, you must explicitly agree to this arrangement. If there is no agreement, assume that standard practice applies, which is the circular swimming motion, which would be in effect either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Rule number 5, on the other hand, is when circular swimming starts, and this starts with 3 people. So once there's 3 people or more and the third person joins a lane, you must start with circular swimming to ensure that everyone in the lane is aware of your entry and agrees on the swimming direction. Normally there's a sign, there's not a sign. Just make sure you guys are all on the same page. Rule number 6, choosing the right lane. So in a public pool, there's typically divided into 3 different types of lanes, the slow, medium, and fast categories. So when choosing a lane, it's essential to consider the other swimmers' pace in the water that's around you at the time. So some days you may be the fastest swimmer in the pool, and that means you go into the fast lane. Other days there could be, a squad or some people that are training really intensely, like triathletes or pro swimmers, and you may be on average in the medium lane. It really does depend where you find yourself on that day, and just use your thinking with best average. So whatever you are with the best average, if you were to split the lanes up equally, you want to make sure that there's a equal amount of people in each lane. A good understanding if you're in a too fast lane, if you're constantly getting overtaken, people are constantly tapping on your toes, is to move into a slow lane. And then the other way around, if you're overtaking all the time, you're finding that you're always slowing down because the people are in front of you, then maybe go into the faster lane. Um, so this brings me to my rule number 7, which is tapping on the feet to pass. Now, tapping on the feet, you might think this is weird, but if a swimmer behind you is purposely tapping on your feet, it normally means that they would like to pass. So the proper response to this is to pause at the next wall or let them proceed within the lane and just move over and sort of give way to the faster swimmer. Um, don't make any sudden movements or try to speed up while you're swimming. It's best that you are giving way uh, and just adhering to these guidelines because it ensures that there's smooth and more enjoyable swimming experience for everyone, which is free from disruptions and just creates less accidents in the pool. And now this brings us to rule number 8 and 9 of the lane etiquette basics. So rule number 8, slow swimmers move to the side. I mentioned it briefly, but if you are a slower swimmer, then move to the side and give way. Allow faster swimmers to pass. You can do this by actually finishing off the lap and just letting them pass at the wall. Most swimmers, when they're overtaking you at the wall, will want to turn in the middle of the lane. So as you're coming into the lane, just scoot over to the other side of the lane so they can turn in the middle. Don't try to be in the middle so they can turn on the side. Always you move to the side so they can turn in the middle, give way to the faster swimmer. Rule number 9 is don't start swimming directly behind another swimmer. So this goes without saying, but starting too close to another swimmer can lead to collisions, especially during the turns at the end of the pool. So a good guideline for sending yourself off is to wait at least 5 to 10 seconds before pushing off after another swimmer. A minimum of 5, but if you can, then 10. Uh, let's move on to the next slide. So the rule number 10 of lane etiquette and lap swimming is to rest at the side of the lane. If you need to rest at the end of the lap, just make sure you're doing it by staying as far to the side of the lane rope as possible to avoid blocking other swimmers that want to turn in the middle of the pool, middle of the lane on the wall. So that's really important to make sure the lane stays flowing. Now, rule number 11 is to avoid short access strokes in busy lanes. So if the lane is occupied by, 4, 5 or more swimmers, using short access strokes such as breaststroke or butterfly, they take up more space, they're slower, and then they create more waves. So those are the 3 reasons why you need to avoid short access strokes while other people are doing long access strokes. So long access strokes are strokes like front crawl or backstroke, which are the 2 most common. You can do obviously breaststroke or butterfly, but just make sure it's in times that are less busy. And secondly, Make sure you're not doing them in, say, the fast or medium lane, but breaststroke and butterfly tend to be a bit slower. So also move to the correct lane speed would be my two pieces of advice. And then finally is the probably the most important rule, arguably the most important, is to be polite and communicate. So always show respect, explain the pool etiquette to others if needed, as not everyone can always be aware of the pool rules or the lane etiquette. Most pools don't display them, which is it makes it an unwritten rule of what's expected at the pool. Uh, so just explain these and be patient, I think, is the biggest piece of advice when going in for a swim. You know, some days it's going to be busy, other days it's not going to be so busy. So just have no expectations there as well. So now that we've covered the 12 basics of lane etiquette, I want to put your knowledge to the test with some scenario-based questions. So here, I'm going to talk about the first scenario. So number one, you're in a swimming lane with two other people. One swimmer is much faster than you, and the other swimmer is slower. How do you handle passing and being passed? Now, I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this in your own head, or if you can, jot it down on a piece of paper. But I want you to think about those two situations and what two rules would apply in those situations. So I'll give you guys 10 more seconds for the first scenario. Right. So by now we all should have an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and answer these ones for you. So it would be rule number 7, touching the feet. That's how you handle passing. To initiate the pass, you need to obviously touch the person's feet. It could take a couple of times for them to realize you're behind them. They should then stop. So if we were then to switch the scenario of being passed, you would stop at the lane at the next lap. You would touch the wall, stop, let the fastest swimmer go, always give way to the fastest swimmer. If you're handling being passed, make sure you don't stop at the wall, keep going past that slower swimmer. Uh, and then if you're being passed, if you're too far away from the wall and the swimmer's super fast, just move over as close as you can to the lane rope and just give way, slow down, let them go past, and then carry on with your swimming. So 2 ways. And that was rule number 8, stopping at the wall to give way. Rule number 7 and number 8. Well done if you got those two correct. Good job. Great. So now let's look at another scenario. You're about to join a lane where 3 swimmers are already circular swimming. What do you do to ensure a smooth entry? So obviously think about the anti-clockwise or clockwise, that's circular swimming. Those are the two options there for you. I'll give you another 20 seconds to answer this question. It's only one rule, so let's see if you can get this rule correct, which number it is. I'll give you 10 more seconds. Right. I'm going to answer this one for you again. So the rule would be rule number 3, always signal to the people in the water that are already in the lane, because there's 3 or more of you that you're getting in. You can do this by dangling your legs so people can see that you're about to get in the water. You could do this by standing at the end of the lane, using your cap and goggles, fixing your cap and goggles, but just make eye contact, give those visual cues that you're about to get in the water. And secondly, you can also talk to the people that are already in the lane. If someone's resting, just tell them, hey, I'm going to get in the pool, just to ensure that everybody knows that there is a fourth person joining. So these scenarios illustrate obviously how important effective communication is and being respectful, following the rules to keep everyone safe in the lane, and it's just more efficient for everybody involved. So well done if you got those two scenarios right. Really good job. This brings us to our next slide. which is the conclusion of thoughts. And I just want to give you a brief overview of the key points. So, out of the 12 rules in mastering, swimming etiquette, it's those 12 rules are there to, really foster a positive experience. Following these rules just make it more respectful and enjoyable environment for all swimmers. I think everybody's there to enjoy themselves. Nobody wants to, you know, get in the way of others, and these rules really help with that. So just remember as well that a little consideration goes a long way. A lot of the times, you've got to be a bit patient because people don't know these unwritten rules. They are unwritten. So explaining it, educating others is always a good way to go about it rather than getting frustrated or anything like that. Some people are more experienced than others in this environment, and we've got to remember that as swimmers. And then lastly, thank you obviously for your attention today and everybody that's participated in this micro teaching lesson on swimming lane etiquette. If you have any questions, I'll give you my email. Feel free to ask now and just email me. Otherwise, I hope you will take these tips with you for the next time you're at the pool and have a great day. Just keep swimming. Thanks.